Claire, thank you so much for taking time out of your, what I can imagine is a very busy schedule, to chat about all things Pompey in the community since we went into lockdown. Let's go right back to the start, all those months ago in March. How quickly did you have to realise that you had to mobilise and knew how much of a problem was happening in the world and how you guys could help?
We'd been preparing for a couple of weeks because we run a lot of sessions with older people, and so we'd sort of upset them and said, look, we really don't want to take the risk. And so kind of we locked down 2 weeks before, and we were really worried because reliant on football and schools, both were non-existent. We knew for the business of the charity we were going to have to do something. So we put in a business proposal in those first few days when everybody was panicking, and then furlough was announced, which meant we could think about it differently and think about what we could do for the city rather than what we had to do to survive. And that's when we contacted the HIVE and we worked with the HIVE. We've got the fleet of vans, we've got very young, healthy, willing volunteers, so they all signed up and volunteered for the HIVE, and that's kind of when it started. We had a rotation, we had enough volunteers that we could have a rotation, so they did a week on in the centre, picking, packing, delivering, and then 2 weeks off just in case any of them became sick, so we'd only lose a third. And then the 2 weeks that they were off, most of them came back and were doing deliveries and things, just not coming into the building. So yeah, and then gradually word grew, and PFC staff became involved. Kev, 3 times a week, would go to the Queen's Hotel, who came on board and were cooking meals. Alan Knight every morning would come in, help with the delivery. Some weeks it was manic. One week we did nearly 600 food parcels, sorry. And a food parcel is food for, 4 days. So it's a lot of food. So yeah, it was manic, and especially to start with because it wasn't just delivering, where all the restaurants, the pubs and everything was closing, so we were collecting as well. So 7 McDonald's phoned us, do you want the food? So we go and collect the buns and the muffins. Local restaurants were closing, so we were sort of a conduit for collecting it in and dishing it out, and working with all sorts, and everything referred sort of back through the HIVE. So yeah, it's just been heartwarming really, because the whole city just came together. Smaller organisations, we've been lent freezers, the Navy lent us a unit for 3 months, local shops who were closing gave us their chest freezers, and then we started working with Enableability and the cooking, so they come in every day. They were cooking for their residents in Lamport. A lot of those didn't have access to sort of hot meals at all, so we moved that into Pompey in the community. We've got our kitchen classroom, so any of the donations that we couldn't give out in the food parcels became ingredients. PMC, the club sponsor, buys fresh fruit, fresh vegetables every week, so I just tell them what we need for the week and they purchase that, so all the food parcels can have fresh fruit in as well, which has been incredible. So yeah, and then the cross-channel ferries, the Isle of Wight ferries, obviously they had a lot of sweets and goodies and chocolates. That all came to us before it went out of date. It's just been a constant cycle of positivity really, alongside some absolutely horrendous stories of people that are just, 200 yards away in dire situations, people who are caring for people who normally would be in hospital, terminally ill but staying in their homes, people who aren't well enough to even come to the door to collect their food parcels. One of the lovely things was the players all got together and contributed some money into a fund. Some of that came to us for ingredients to help with the food parcels. Some of it bought care packages for our wheelchair using disabled fans, which the players then delivered themselves, and that had goodies in and things to keep them entertained, and Pompey top trumps and all sorts, so they were absolutely thrilled with that. And the success of that has then led to us doing that for a lot of the kids that we work with, so we've put together sort of care packages for them with things to keep the kids entertained, and the players have also been joining in, and we're going out again this week with Cam delivering some of his boots and bits and pieces to young fans and youngsters that we work with. So it is constant. It has been probably the hardest I've ever worked, because on top of that, obviously we've got to try and keep the charity going. And football completely has stopped. We've got our education programs where our tutors have been working throughout, trying to finish off coursework and exams and things online. And then we're still trying to get Moneyfields over the line, so our 3G pitch development with Moneyfields. So yeah, it's been tough at times, but it's the first time in 20 years that I've run the charity that I've felt that we're really doing what a charity should and serving the community and doing what's really needed. So for me, it's kind of made me rethink things a little bit and what we can do and what we're capable of doing. And I think that'll change some of our focus moving forward, because it's been, and the way that the staff, especially, you know, the core staff within Pompey and the community have just gone, yep, that's it, absolutely 200%, just doing whatever needed doing. It's been phenomenal.
Sounds like been an absolute whirlwind and so many good stories and things to touch on there. But let's go back to when you're talking about HIVE Portsmouth. For those people who don't know, who are watching, what do they do? How have they been so crucial to what's been going on over the last 3 months?
The HIVE sort of formed in a workshop a little while back because there was a bit of a disconnect between the sort of statutory services, the City Council, and the charity and community organisations. So they sort of set up to join the two together, perhaps bring in some funding and be the voice and sort of serve the community in that way. I don't think they ever imagined they'd become quite so pivotal so quickly. So yeah, they were responsible for all the referrals. Any issues went through the HIVE. They coordinated the pharmacies and medicines going out, the food. They do information and guidance. And so anybody who really is in need of anything, even if they can't help, they just signpost to where. And obviously my lot has been a lifesaver, because if you're furloughed, you can't volunteer for your own organisation. But because they were all able to volunteer for the HIVE, it meant we could just carry on and we could utilise fully our staff, but make sure that we were obviously, you know, not doing, well, there's nothing to do really for the charity itself at the moment for those staff, because they're all football coaches. So they're just busy the whole time. So I think for some of them it's been a bit of a lifesaver as well, because they have been busy. And quite often it's been 7 days a week, not 5. So it's been, a lot of them have said thank you so much. You know, I get thank yous on a Friday that they've worked 12-hour days volunteering, because, you know, if they live alone or they're struggling a bit, it's been quite a privilege to be able to feel like you're making a difference.
March feels like an absolute lifetime ago when we were seeing PITC and the HIVE taking food from restaurants into food banks and places like that. Obviously with the way lockdown has developed, where restrictions are lifting slightly, you're able to go to people's homes and drop things off and actually have a conversation. How heartwarming has that been? I
think for a lot of people it is the only human interaction that they get, and quite often it's been almost tears of relief. You know, I spoke to a couple on the phone and I said, do you need your delivery tonight or could you wait till the morning, because it had been a busy day? And she said to me, no, it's all right, love, we've got a tin of peas, we can share that tonight, just bring it in the morning. And you're thinking, gosh, this is just up the road and these two are living on a tin of peas and they've got literally nothing in the cupboards. So, you know, some of the thank yous and the gratitude that you get, I think for the lads especially, you know, it's been brilliant. They've loved making a real difference. You know, delivering with families in a flat with 5 or 6 kids and really nothing in the cupboard. So Asda gave us, I think, 500 Easter eggs, and with all the chocolate, you can actually not just take a basics food parcel. You know, you can give them something where their eyes light up and they've got something that perhaps they haven't had for a little while. And the Queen's Hotel. You know, for them to turn around and make 150 meals 3 times a week, but not just, you know, beans or something, but really special chefy meals has been, you know, incredible. And there's been so many organisations that have done that. The Akash, Casa Flamenca and Port Solent, all of them have been, you know, contributing. So I don't think there's any aspect of the community that hasn't sort of helped out in some way.
We've seen so many of the players get involved. It's really been making the club proud. How did that start? Did you approach them or did a couple of players approach you?
I think it was Christian actually. Christian is a trustee of Pompey in the community, so he knows exactly what we're doing. And obviously before this started, I always have to run everything by trustees, so he would have got that. And I think it was the very first week he picked up the phone and said, some of the lads want to help, what can we do, how can we get involved? So he'd phone on a Sunday, sort out the players' timetable for the week, and he'd say, well, you've got Ben on a Monday, you've got Cam on a Wednesday, and I'll come in Tuesday, Thursday. Quite how the cooking started with them, I'm not so sure, but that sort of evolved as well, and that's just been brilliant. So that's gone from them helping in the kitchen to, I mean, Christian and Ben have sort of been involved in full meals, and I think Christian even gave our 2 lads a cooking lesson the other week. So that's been really good, and it's been lovely seeing our facility used to its maximum. felt almost overused. We don't have a chance to clean it, you know, so we've got to really run it quite strictly because it is so busy in there to be producing that many meals for that many people.
Let's run through a couple of those names. Christian Burgess, obviously, Andy Cannon, Cameron McGeehan, John Marquis, Tom Naylor, club captain, Ben Close, Sean Raggett, to name a few, and apologies if I've missed any off the list. How impressed have you been with their attitude?
Do you know what's been the nicest thing is that they're just part of the team. They've just come in and got on with it, and there's been a bit of mickey taking, and it's not like there's the players and there's my staff now. It's just, you know, they're all in it, they're all part of the delivery team or the volunteers, and they just get on with it together. And that to me has been the best part of it, that it's all so chilled and so relaxed, and everybody just, you know, gets on with it together. And to see some of the faces of the kids, especially when you're going with, not that I've been, but you know, you see it on the film of the kids opening the door and their eyes lighting up when they see a player, and you know, some of our older fans, it just means so much that they've taken the time out to do that. So yeah, it's fabulous. It's
not just the players as well, like you touched on earlier, Abdul the steward, Kev the kit man, Alan Knight, MBE, some proper club legends. This has been a whole club thing. This hasn't just been you having to convince the players, not just been PITC, it's not just been the Hive, everybody's been interlocked and doing it together.
Do you know, I remember when I joined the trust and I said, it doesn't really matter, you know, if it's Pompey Football Club, Pompey Trust, Pompey in the community, it's just Pompey. And this is a genuine time where it's just been Pompey. And that's been fabulous. You know, the club staff have joined in. You know, I mean, Tanya was working the whole time and just said, if you've got any more deliveries after 4 o'clock when I'm done, just let me know. And she'd call up with her son and take over. Alan has been fab. Kev's had his big van, so he's been able to help us out with some of the larger deliveries and the larger orders. We were very lucky as well. I put in a bid. We got rather a large funding bid just for food. So we've been able to help in a big way with some of the other food banks. We've got a food WhatsApp group for anybody in the city who needs anything or has an excess of anything, because it's also been our supermarkets. Our supermarkets have been amazing. You know, Waitrose, Morrison's, Sainsbury's, Tesco, all of them have donated or given their excess or just come up trumps time and time again. So there's always things to collect and deliver. Sainsbury's Farlington have done a donation trolley for us for about the last 5 years, and we thought that would dry up, but it hasn't. It's you know, it's massive during this time, so we collect that once a week just from their customers. So that's another way that, you know, the community are just giving back. We just got to find a way for some of this just to continue through, because you know, for us as a club to be so instrumental in really supporting the city, it would be great to be able to continue.
I think, like you said and you've touched on there, I think from the inside looking out, we like to say Pompey is at the heartbeat of the community, but this has really shown and really hit that home that the club, PITC, HIVE, players, staff, whoever is associated with the club, really sort of drives that community spirit.
And I think as well, having, you know, somebody from Pompey to knock on your door with that badge and that brand kind of makes you feel at ease already. And I think there's a lot of communication that doesn't need to happen because the badge speaks louder than anything. So it's very reassuring, rather than having someone in any other uniform or someone formal. Just having someone from our club is a really positive thing as well.
What's made you the most proud, Claire?
Just every day. Every day, you know, the first referrals come in and I just, you know, ping them off. I had to shield, so I've been working from home and coordinating from home for the first, you know, all of this. So I've been set up, you know, in my kitchen, coordinating all of this, not wondering whether people will turn up, not wondering how it's going to work, just, you know, just bursting with pride, really. I knew that I had a good team, but I never imagined I had a team quite like this.
And finally, what's next? I know the job's far from done in terms of people being in lockdown and the world isn't normal anymore or whatever that is. So what's coming up?
We're preparing for potentially another wave if it happens, another local lockdown potentially. And also I think the end of furlough hitting very hard when companies realise actually, you know, furlough's been a stopgap, but it's not an answer. So I think we need to be really aware that, you know, we're in the middle of something, we're not at the end of something, and putting plans in place to make sure that we can continue to support, or there are contingency plans if my staff need to go back to work and you know, do their day job. So that's all happening as well at the moment. As I said before, I think a big part of this is going to be continuing to reach out. There's a lot of people who are isolated, who are lonely, who are scared. We've just launching a project with the Football League Trust through the government's Loneliness Fund, so that will enable us to go out and reach out to some of the people who are stuck at home or terrified to make that first step. So that's all going to be happening. And then of course our development at Moneyfields. I think our focus from that, it'll be a bit of football, but a lot of that will be community activity to enable people to take those first steps into, becoming part of the community again.
I know I said finally before, this is the finally, Claire. You've mentioned people who are scared or on their own, isolated. How can they reach out to you to get some help?
Well, that will be launching very soon, so watch this space literally in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, if they just ping us an email at info@pompeyitc.org.uk, that's probably the best way to do it. If not, we are in the office during the day most of the time, so that's the other way. We have got the website, otherwise just ping an email to the club at info, and that always ends up in the right place. So there's lots of ways to communicate, and hopefully we'll be able to send something out through our social media channels and the club's social media channels fairly soon, so people do know how they can reach out for that support should they need it.